Hey folks, Agent Tremper back with you, and we are up in the old George Carey sugar bush, deep in the woods of North Danville, in the heart of the Northeast Kingdom, and we're back with my friend, Chief Sugar Maker Chris Chabla from Carey in Maine.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, a couple days ago we had a ton of snow.
Yep.
Now we've got our mud boots on.
Yep.
And most of the snow is gone. So we really kind of ride a roller coaster here, don't we, for weather?
Yeah, we take what Mother Nature gives us, and it can be good, it can be bad, but the snow we got a couple of days ago really extended our season.
Yeah, and the weather forecast, we are looking for freezing nights and generally 30 degrees or less for freezing.
Yep.
And warm days. The forecast for the next week is going to be 28 degrees or less at night and up in the high 30s and early 40s during the daylight. So yeah, perfect. And we're sitting on roughly 8,000 gallons of sap today.
Yep, another big boil.
Yeah. Yeah, we will be bringing you along to the different phases of the process here. And it really is part art, part science, and part magic. It's interesting that Mother Nature creates the trees of life, the food in the trees of life, and we are able to transform it into an extremely nourishing product. And you know, Chris, I got a question at our open house last weekend. Someone said, well, why do they call it a sugar woods, and why do they call you sugar makers? Shouldn't they call you syrup makers? Good question.
Right.
It really goes back to, in the beginning, the Native Americans, we think, discovered this. And people back then didn't really have a source of sugar. They didn't have cane sugar. Now, they were growing sugar beets in the South, but you have to remember, during the Civil War, the South shut off exports of sugar to the North. And so all of the northern Yankees started making sugar. And the table sugar, of course, would last longer. Now, nowadays, we concentrate, of course, on maple syrup. But we also sometimes make maple cream and maple candy and maple sugar, right? Tell us about the differences in those. And I know that there's an art to making all of these. But what's really the difference when we're cooking maple syrup versus when we make maple cream versus when we make maple candy or sugar?
Yeah, so it all has to do with the temperatures. So we start with our syrup at 66.9 degrees, or degrees Brix.
Yep.
And then we will either heat it up to a certain degrees and either churn it or cool it. There's different processes and different machines.
Okay.
But we're still starting with pure syrup.
Yep.
You know, nothing's changing except maybe a little bit of the chemistry, but we're not adding anything. And it's just, like I said, a couple different processes and different machines involved, and every sugar maker will be a little different.
Yeah. So it's amazing that from the sap, which really seems like water, and it's about 2%. We then bring in some science, and we run it through the reverse osmosis machine, which brings the sugar content. Sugar makers are all a little bit different, and I know that some are very proprietary about that. You know, we've had this conversation before. We don't push our RO machines as hard as many will do. Now, the RO machine, of course, takes the sap at 2% and concentrates it, takes out the raw water, pure water, and leaves us more concentrated sugars. And the purpose of that is basically to save fuel and to save time.
Fuel and time.
In the old days, I grew up in the 60s and 70s farming in central New York, and our arch was wood-fired, and many of the arches, of course, were wood-fired over the years. I can remember when we then got an oil-fired arch to add on to it, and so we'd run our sap initially through the wood-fired arch and then go to the oil-fired, where we had more control. Okay, and we're bringing more science into it. Years ago, of course, we collected in buckets, right? And we have some wooden buckets that we'll be bringing into the museum. And of course, I grew up with metal buckets. Now we have this maze
Yes.
of pipeline, and it's really gotten scientific.
Oh yeah.
Now, we started with pipeline in the mid 70s, early to mid 70s, and it was just a way to keep the sap clean and pure, keep it from getting diluted by tree snot, if you will, leaves, that kind of stuff, and to keep it pure. Nowadays, though, you actually run vacuum.
Yep.
Right? Now, does the vacuum actually suck the sap out of the tree, or is it more just to keep the lines flowing?
It's all about pressure. So inches of vacuum we run, we can get up to about 28 would be maximum for us. So it's basically creating negative pressure, a maximum pressure difference between your tap and that controlled environment. So it's edging that sap along compared to a tap in the open atmosphere.
Yeah.
Just drip, drip, drip. This is maximum efficiency.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, and you were explaining to us in another video that the temperature differential that we're looking for, the freezing nights and the warm days, actually creates a pressure differential within the tree, and that the sap actually runs up to the twigs and leaves, not yet, but and then comes back down into the roots when it freezes.
Yeah.
And we're catching it. Are we catching it both ways, or are we only catching it up or down?
You can catch it both ways, but a lot of it is on its way back down.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's part of the art, and of course we had our segment on tapping, and I believe tapping is definitely an art. Today we're going to focus more on the science, which is the tubing. We will shoot some more video of, we've got what are called releasers. So we've got a vacuum pump, and that creates vacuum in the releaser. And all of these pipelines, from the tiny ones at the tree level to these main lines, then gets sucked into the releaser. And then that goes to a storage tank.
Yep.
Okay, so this is tank A.
Yep.
Okay. And from the storage tank, what happens?
So we go from the releaser to our holding tank,
Yep.
and we have some automatic float valves we can set at certain levels with the transfer pump, which will transfer it to our main holding tanks, where we have about 8,000 gallons of total capacity there.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So we've got 8,000 gallons of sap waiting for us.
Yeah, the RO's been running, so it's been processing for a few hours. So
Okay.
got a couple thousand waiting for us
Okay.
there.
And I was just down at the old sugar house, old number 138, and that's tank A. And that's roughly a 3,000 gallon tank, 2,500 or so.
It's a little less.
Little
yeah,
less.
Yeah.
That tank was almost full.
Yep, and that should be on its way over if everything's
This
working
tank
right.
is almost full, and of course our main storage tanks are almost full. So we got to get cooking.
Yeah.
All right.
Start the evaporator.
Let's go. Oh man.